They got Willa. They got my daughter. I need to find her. Ah!
From acclaimed director Paul Thomas Anderson.
You can save that girl.
Today, experience what is being called the best movie of the year.
This is the end of the line. Not for you.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Tiana Taylor, Chase Infinity.
Let's go!
One battle after another. Now playing only in theaters. Experience it in IMAX. Rated R. Under 17 animated without parent.
You can't hide.
Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Dripping in gold? That's cool. Dripping in Velveeta's supremely creamy golden cheesiness? That's respect. Elevate your drip with Velveeta's range of outrageously delicious dips and dishes. Shells, cheese, melty blocks, and heat and eat queso that go all in on indulgence. Flex on your fam with a creamy, cheesy masterpiece and go all in on what you love with Velveeta. Respect the drip and satisfy your cravings. Bring home the drip with Velveeta.
You're listening to the Super Rugby Cymru podcast.
Hello and welcome to the SRC podcast. Joining me this evening is Mr. Joe Wilson. Our usual friends, Mr. John Harris, aka Bucky, has decided to go watch a soccer game. I'm not happy about that. And Mr. Reese is... well, I'm assuming he's stuck in work. That's the excuse he's given. So we get to make their predictions this evening. But
yes.
being as a year, Joe, good evening. How are you, Bert?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. It's been an interesting week of rugby in SRC world. So obviously the first game was good for 30, 40 minutes until the rain interrupted. And yeah, it was a funny one for the predictions. I think all of us probably struggled in some senses, apart from you. My good old muckers RGC were probably the only one I got right. Thanks to the boys up there. But no, yeah, really good week of rugby. So yeah, enjoyed.
Well, you've started on it there, so why don't we dive into that Thursday night game? Abandoned at half-time. They did actually make it to the half, which, was probably a miracle looking at the conditions. Game will be replayed, so, points, match points, game points, don't apply to players or obviously the teams. Newport went in 3-0 ahead, so I think that does tell you a bit of what the game was like. But I don't know about you, but watching it live, I really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you said about the forwards handling skills, everything about it, just the way you have to approach a game in those conditions. And I think both sides adapted really, really well. What was your take on the game, Bert?
Yeah, it was a leveler, wasn't it? The weather, the way that it was. Fair play to the ground staff down there for even getting it on, because I was looking at from where I was and how much it had rained with us, and it was a miracle they got it on. So fair play to the ground staff down there. I think you see a game like this, and I think the coaches always try to make it a little bit more limited, a game plan to begin with. But what really sort of stood out for me from both packs was just the skill levels. That ball turns into a bar of soap, doesn't it? And the ability to hold on to the ball and retain possession, to get the little offloads going out of contact the way that they did. Yeah, it was wet, and there was a lot of contact. But the youngsters coming through this league have got to be able to play in all conditions, and they were certainly challenging conditions. And I thought it was a great spectacle for the first half. They were two equally matched teams. I think Newport turned down 2 penalties. They probably could have gone for. So going in 3-0 at half time, that probably flattered Aberafon slightly. But I thought, Aberafon looked like they had a try in them for sure. And I was impressed with the physicality that their pack displayed as well. Really good.
Yeah, they were definitely in that game. Obviously, Aberafon missing 2 penalties as well. But at the end of the day, this game actually doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It will be replayed. I am very much looking forward to this replay. I hope SR Direct do pick it up because they are owed a TV game as far as I'm concerned. But if we turn our attentions now to the games that actually made it to the final whistle, we'll start with probably let's go with the most exciting game of the week. Then we had RGC hosting Pontypool, 103 points. It's not very often, you get to say that in a rugby game, especially in a Welsh rugby game, unless it's totally one-sided. So, I mean, I think we all backed out. Well, me and you definitely backed RGC going into this week. So it was great to see. I'm quite amazed that. I'm amazed that the crowd, managed to go home after that. I would imagine you've been stunned watching, 3, 6, 7, 13 tries in a game. That must have been awesome to watch live. What do you think then? But should Pontypool have done a little bit better in this one, or were RGC thoroughly deserved winners?
Yeah, I think first game aside, I think RGC at home on that surface will back themselves. I think they've got a big enough type 5 to match most teams, but then the back row is really mobile, and then they're quite pacey and large in the back line as well. So I think I always felt RGC had Pooler's sort of measure in this game, and I think I'm right in saying it was over 60 points in the first half. So it started off at a hell of a pace, this game. And I think ultimately Pooler will be disappointed. They've shipped 7 tries over the course of the game. I think, whoever's coordinating defence will be taking a long look at that and sort of saying, we perhaps didn't cope with the speed of ball that RGC were able to generate. And that showed in the tries that were scored. And I thought Billy McBride at 10 for RGC just really, really controlled things so well for them. And when it was on, just sprayed it wide so quick. So, But what was quite interesting about this game is I'm sure with 12 minutes to go, it was 47-42. So Pooler were in this, and I think they'll feel like this is one that's got away from them. But I don't know if they made the changes at the right time or didn't make enough of them at the right time. But it kind of, the way the score got away from them in those last 12 minutes, it sort of suggests they perhaps ran out of a little bit of steam or a little bit of coordination there, and RGC were able to take that game away from them.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm with you in regards to Billy McBride. He's been a revelation for them since coming back, and getting a good old head to guide your younger players is awesome. I mean, yeah, Pontypool, it was 39-21 at half time, so that 60-point mark, which again, incredible. It was the first time we had Morgan Allen and Scott Matthews in the same back row. Pontypool were missing their captain and Mikey Herbert. I don't know if that really played much of a part, but they were definitely in this game. I know a 19-point gap makes you think, oh, they've got a bit of a thump timber there. And don't get me wrong, RGC did run riot. They did run in plenty of tries, but so did RGC. If you take out the extra penalties that RGC landed, it's a one-score game. It's just managing the scoreboard over the 80, which RGC did, slightly better and managed to pull away at the end. I mean,
I think you hit the nail on the head there. The penalties were massive.
Yeah,
I think the indiscipline was huge in the end and telling. But I think it was a funny game in many respects because RGC would score 2 tries, then Pooler would come back, get a penalty, score a try, another try for RGC, 2 tries to Pooler. It was nip and tuck all the way through, and just as you felt RGC were pulling away, Pooler would come back and hit back with another couple of tries. So it was an entertaining game to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's something that we're seeing more of now in this league, especially with it being ring-fenced and purposeful development. Teams are going out and attacking. They're not going out to not lose a game. They're going out to win. And by God, did both teams go out to win this one. I'm really annoyed that putting RGC in 10th in my table. I know you've been quite lucky that you haven't given us your league table yet. I think you've been stalling. and stalling. We should really nail you down to something. I'll probably pick it for you now, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, it was a great game. It was an awesome game. That's the only way you can describe it. It reminds me of the old, noughties, bloody Super Rugby matches where you see them just going sky high with tries.
And I think Pooler, Pooler will be looking forward to this reverse fixture now. I know we're going to comment on it a bit later, but I really like what the league have done here with these reverse fixtures at this point in the season, because I think it just adds a bit of spice. I think Pooler will be looking at this. It's a great chance to get straight back on the bike and get your revenge, and just creates an extra bit of needle because it's all the wounds are fresh from the weekend before. So I love it. I think it'll be cracker.
Yeah, we've spoken about these double headers, and they are awesome. You got your Christmas one, you got this one now. I would have loved to have seen an Easter weekend one. That would have been. Yep. I mean, there's no reason you can't have 3 double headers in a league like this.
Why not?
Bit monotonous, but I reckon they can do it. Come on, WRU, pull your finger out.
Definitely.
So, we'll move on to your boys now. So you took quite a long trip to the end of the M4. And you didn't come away with much. So 31-19 away to Carmarthen Quins. Now, admittedly, I'm the only one that backed Quins last week because, who wants to back Cardiff? But obviously before the team sheets were announced, even I can say I was probably reaching a little bit, saying Quins were going to win. So, not getting all the parachute players that you've had in the opening couple rounds, where did it really go wrong for Cardiff, because you were really out of the game and it was only a late couple of tries that made the score more respectable?
I think they started slowly. I think they were missing, the usual extra 2 players that they would have had sort of parachuted in, and that probably showed up front really. I think Quins, to be fair to them, started really, really quickly, and I felt dominated the first half. I can't remember what the score was at half-time, 24-7 or something like that. I think I had in my head. They blew them away first half, and I think this is the one thing about this Cardiff team. It's a young, exciting backline, but they, like I've said on previous podcasts, they need parity, and I just don't think the pack were capable of producing that for them for whatever reason. And just maybe a little bit of physicality missing in that pack, and that proved detrimental in the first half. And then you're trying to dig yourself out of a big hole. But I think fair play to Cardiff. They stuck in there, managed to score another 12 points in the second half. So it points to, a young backline not sort of imploding or losing it, and a pack that sort of stuck to their task, I suppose, at the end of the day. But just a reach too far. And it'll be fantastic to see how the return fixture goes. Interestingly, though, for Cardiff, and I think they'll be working on it this week in training, held up over the line twice in the second half, and that's massive. At this level, I think we've seen it in the games even that are televised. There's no
TMO
match official. There's no TMO. So I think they'll be working on making sure they've got clarity of grounding in the sessions this week, and making sure that that they're not getting held up over the line, and it's a really easy decision for the referee to make because they're out there on their own. So I think, I took a little bit of heart from that. The fact that those parachute players weren't in there, you add in those two tries held up over the line. You look at the scoreline again then, and it's a little bit tighter affair there.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say for Cardiff, you won the second half 12-7, so you do have something sort of tangible to go home with as well if you're looking on the scoreboard. Something we saw in the Quins lineup that I never anticipated seeing was Aled Thomas returning in the 10 jersey. Now, we spoke about the experience, factor of Billy McBride at RGC, but Aled Thomas is a step up even again. I mean, years in the professional game, running things from the number 10 shirt. That is, without a doubt, a massive factor in the way that Quins get to play the game. They had their own parachute player in Ben Williams. He is still academy age, but he's been very involved with the Scarlet senior team over the last 12 months. So I will put him in there as that parachute player. I don't know if you saw the highlights, but I loved the Quins' final try. It was Ben Williams making that break down the touchline. Bit of a loose offload, picked up by the 12 McDonald, and he just slotted the wing, batted him over. It's getting those line breaks and executing them is what will obviously scare you points on the scoreboard and win you games. And it's something we didn't see a lot of with Quins last season. Like, they'd make that break, but once that offload doesn't go to hand immediately, that was it. They'd sort of fall in and around. They've actually kept on going and managed to get a score out of it in this one. So being a Western fan, shall we say, I'm very happy with Quins' progress so far this season. And I'm looking forward to seeing this return leg. I would love to get down there because I think it'd be incredibly intense game to watch, especially after Cardiff losing in the manner they did.
Yeah, so, and I think your point on Alec Thomas is valid. We've seen a number of games this season, I think, decided not because they're not good enough, but just because of the game management piece from 8, 9, 10. And I thought Alec Thomas went really, really well up against a 19-year-old Oisin Darwin-Lewis for Cardiff, who I think was getting his first start at 10. Young, exciting prospect, but the contrast between those two players was huge. I thought Oisin did really, really well, but you could just see Alec bringing to bear all that experience he's got in the first half and just really guiding that back round in the first half. It was telling. So, but look, that's how these boys are going to learn. They've got to get exposed to this level. And to your point about the line breaks, that's the one thing you definitely want to see this league producing is just this real clinical execution of line break opportunities, because it's something, when you look at the international stage of the game, it's something Wales have struggled with as well. So you're hoping that if these youngsters are exposed to this and they regularly get it in the habit of anticipating that line break, taking those supporting lines, getting the comms piece done, they'll execute the tries more regularly. So it's something that the whole league seems to embrace. There's a good positivity in it, and I think Quins, like you say, demonstrated it really well this weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I do have a correction now for everyone listening at home or watching on YouTube, wherever you are. Mr. John Harris is not indeed watching the football. He's out in Portugal playing golf. So I think that's slightly better in my eyes.
I'll let him off. Just a last point on that Quins Cardiff game as well. 5 yellow cards in the end. There was a bit of a sort of, I don't know if the pockets were weighing heavy in the referees. The cards were weighing heavy in the referees' pockets, but there's a bit of an explosion of indiscipline in the second half. And I don't know if that was just a case that he'd spoken to them about what he wanted and he wasn't getting it. But it kind of disrupts the game massively then. And I think both sides will reflect on that and think they've got to improve on discipline this week.
Well, yeah, I think every side does that every single week. Even if you only give away 5 penalties or you give away 15, discipline should be number 1. Well, not probably number 2 when you're talking about your defence. It's imperative that you, 1, keep 15 men on the pitch, and 2, limit the amount of penalties give you away, especially in your own half. But anyone who's followed rugby or has played it or watched it will know giving away penalties instantly means you're under pressure, and you cannot be doing that at any level. So we'll switch over to what was probably the biggest game of the weekend, or biggest in anticipation and hype. Llandovery travelling to Ebbw Vale. Now, he's not here, but Rob Rees is a well-known Ebbw Valean. He's got the badge tattooed on his body, and he backed Llandovery to win last week. So I'm thinking that's why he's not here. It's not that he's in work. He's too embarrassed to come on. I mean, looking at it from a Llandovery point of view, there were patches in that game where they were in the ascendancy and they scored pretty much with ease. It's just a case of they're not doing it consistently. Like, it was exactly the same against RGC. They put themselves last week. They put themselves in the position to win, 28-23 down, got deep in their 22, and then just fluffed it. And, something similar happened in this game. They finished 38-29. At 35-29, Llandovery were in the ascendancy. And I don't know what's going on at this club at the minute. We can see the talent in the players there. They're not being blown away, not by any stretch of the imagination. They're just not firing on all cylinders. So, fair play, Ebbw Vale, incredible side, and well worth their win here.
Yeah, and I think I sort of I criticised Ebbw Vale when they came to Cardiff a couple of weeks ago on the Thursday night for not displaying the ambition in that attacking zone in the Cardiff, from the Cardiff 10-metre line onwards, and really putting a bit of width on the ball, and that definitely wasn't the case during this game. I think the winger finished with 2. Was it Ewan Bowden?
Oh, Bowden, yeah.
Bowden, yeah. I mean, he finished with 2, and that points to an ambition by the Ebbw Vale side to exploit once they got in those positions, to get the ball wider and really attack Llandovery, and ultimately has paid dividends for them because they've won the game. So, and I think as well, the other thing that we highlighted in the game when Ebbw Vale played Cardiff was just how well Ebbw Vale's pack went. Well, I thought it was a feature of the entire game. Their line out and maul was immense, and it caused, I don't know what the stats were, meters made, but it would have been triple figures, I think, because they just seemed to just march down the pitch on a couple of occasions. So really, really good platform laid by Ebbw Vale pack, which I've not doubted yet so far this season. But it was really nice to see that matched with some attack and intent in the backs, and some really good width put on the ball. And I think in countenance to that, what you're saying about Llandovery, they're not quite firing on all cylinders. I think they're shipping more points probably than they were this time last year. You can definitely see that. And the other standout for me in this game was just a lack of discipline. And I think they'll be really, really peeved off about that as a side. It's a couple of things that, when you've played at that level, they're non-negotiables. You've got to have the discipline, and it doesn't take talent to put some shoulders into people. And at the moment, they're not quite clicking defensively and discipline-wise.
Yeah, I mean, if we just look at Ebbw Vale's try scorers, they all came from backs. 1 for centre Ethan Phillips, brilliant player. I love him. 2 for Bowden, and then the old head in Jonathan Evans. I think it was a quick penalty tap, and he seemed to go quite a distance on his own. So again, that sort of thing wouldn't be happening last season with this Drover side. That quick tap, 10, 15 meters, they would be all over him, and it's hard for them going forward. But like I said, plaudits to Ebbw Vale. They've bounced back from what was quite lackluster against Cardiff, and they've shown they really are a team that's going to be competing again this year. So that brings us down to our final result from the weekend. Swansea hosting Bridgend in a bit of a derby here, and
Australia derby, yeah.
Oh yeah, Bridgend getting over the line, which is something we haven't been able to say yet. Swansea still winless, I believe, but this really was the Ben Burnell show, scoring 22 of Bridgend's 27 points. Almost outscoring Swansea on his own. I mean, we've seen a massive. I say massive. We've seen this trend now with Bridgend in all their games where they start really fast and they get a try or they get points on the board. And we saw the exact same thing again on Saturday. They got that early score and they went into the half 14-10. Swansea did come back into a fair play to them. Matthew Aubrey, coming back into the side. He's going to be a major player for the rest of the season for them now. But yeah, it was such obviously I follow all these games on Twitter if I can, and you watch all the scores go in, you see the little comments that these social media guys are putting up, and it gets you so invested into the game. You like envisioning it. It's like reading a book. You're picturing everything in your head. It's a great way to experience it if you're not there and don't have access to commentary. And just Bridgend really just pipping it right at the end. Really, 3-point margin. Swansea still could have nicked it. The return fixture is going to be even more intense. I'm betting Swansea are going to be incredibly annoyed that they didn't manage to get this one over the line.
Yeah, I think you look at that Swansea starting lineup. You had Ellis Fackrell in there, Morgan Morse was starting, Luca Giannini at 8, Harry Houston on the wing. They're all quality players. So I think Swansea were stacked and in a good place to take advantage of this. they'll definitely be kicking themselves about the way they sort of saw the game out. And in fairness to Bridgend, the one thing you can't accuse them of is really trying to attack teams for the full 80 minutes. And they did it again this weekend. It was a really great try to win it. They worked it out to the wing, lovely little chip kick through. They regather it. He's tackled just short of the line. He pops it off the floor, which I'm a massive fan of. If you're not getting the decision from the referee, just remove the ruck from the whole scenario. Just pop the ball quickly off the floor to a supporting player. I think it was Chris Williams, was it, that is running that supporting line, and all he's got to do is literally sort of flop over and take that score. But it was just really, I thought as well as Ben Bennell for Bridgend, Harry Houston was to the fore as well. I think did he get a brace?
Harry Houston. No, I'll get my sheet up now. I've literally just gone off it for a second.
It was just really good to see, these youngsters come back. And I was particularly pleased for Ben Bennell because, I think there was sort of a period there after age grade rugby where you're kind of looking at where's he going to go, where's he going to sell. And I think he's found a home there and, getting a start, playing really well, scoring that number of points. It's great to see a player of his promise from age grade coming to the fore. And, I thought it was a breakout game for him. I thought he did really, really well.
Yeah, it was, the team sheets for Bridgend so far this season, Burnell has been on the bench for, the first two games, which is a surprise to me. I thought he was just going to come in, that 10 shirt was going to be his. But, Luke Price has had the 10 shirt for the opening two games. And, this was really Ben's first chance. And by God, did he take it. And like you said, he deserves it. He's had a bit of a winding journey so far, but, rocky roads tend to lead to, more mentally strong players. So there's still plenty of time in this game for this boy to go places. And you never quite know where anyone is going to end up. If you just look professionally, how many boys, weren't really involved in sort of the academy system. Like I know Eddie James, who got his first Welsh cap in the summer, he wasn't picked when he was first years and under 18s. He was actually playing 10 for Coleg Cigar Seconds. He had a bit of a growth spurt. People actually started to pay a bit of attention to him, and now he's won a Wales cap within 3-4 years. Things can change massively, and it doesn't matter if that's when you're 18, 19, or even when you're 24, 25. Like Gareth Thomas at the Ospreys is another one. I don't think he won his first cap till he was, 28 years old. People are late bloomers, and that's something that this competition is there for, to try and keep these boys in the game at the highest level they can for as long as they can. So
I think it's interesting for Ben as well, because I think he gives Bridgend something. For me, what he brought in that game the other night last weekend was he was just taking the game to the line a lot more perhaps than his predecessor had. But I think he's a little bit bigger a player, and maybe there's, with the way that they're trying to play, maybe he should be in that starting lineup, but filter him a little bit further out in that back line at 12. And you've got two decision makers then and two distributors in that back line. Maybe that's what they need. Because they went down to Newport, I think, didn't they, in the first round, and they sort of struggled, sort of game management wise, having made a fast start. So maybe that's the assurance they need. Maybe they need the two distributors on the park. But he played really well, and he's thrown his hat in the ring and given the coach a nice problem for this coming weekend.
Yeah, I bet Scott is absolutely loving that.
That's what you want.
Thursday night game as well. You're like, I had another. Okay, never mind. We'll go with you. But that brings us to the end of the results section this week. So if you like what we're doing, or you just want to give us a hand, like, subscribe, share, comment. We want to comment. We want to interact with you. Every little bit helps, and we want to make a product that's good for you guys to hear as well. So get in touch, like, subscribe, anything. We'll get on you straight away. So we'll start with the Thursday night game. So it is the reverse of Swansea Bridgend. Now, Bridgend haven't named their squad. It's coming out Thursday morning, so obviously anyone listening to this, you've probably already seen it. They've got a provisional squad, so there are not many changes expected. I think, let me if I can find out my message from him. So Liam Tobias is set to make his 50th appearance. That'll be great for him. And Tom Florence, Evan Hill, and Lewis Jones are all available from their Ospreys allocation. So obviously we've seen a bit of Florence and Hill already. I don't think we've seen Lewis Jones just yet. I'm just double checking all my squads. No, we haven't. So, a new player, an academy player, obviously, it's not an old head that you can really bank on doing something, but a young player who might have the world of talent, So could this make an impact? Like, so far, Bridgend have been very, very strident in their selections. Like, from week one, if you weren't in the 23 1 week, only 2 people have managed to move into the 15 in the next over the 2 games. So they're keeping things very consistent, in all fairness to them there. Ooh. They've got the win. I think there is enough in them to go again, especially when we come on to Swans, and we have a look at their squad. But I'm expecting more of the same from Bridgend. They're going to come out of the blocks 100 miles an hour. And after this first win now, I think they might actually start playing for longer periods and actually starting to put teams not so much to the sword but under the cosh for a lot longer in the game.
Yeah, I think I think I backed a lot of away teams last weekend, and I've learned my lesson. I think Bridgend will be playing with a little bit more confidence now this weekend for just getting over the line. No Ben Burnell this weekend. Josh Phillips back in the 10 slots. But it's an exciting backline. And, I know we've highlighted it before, but they do play a high-skill game. And I think at home, they'll be singularly more determined to make sure that they win and get the double over their Ospreys rivals. So I think with the parachute players included, I think there's probably still only one score in it, but I fancy Bridgend again here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you with there. Like, Swansea have announced their team, and only 4 players that were in the starting 15 for the first leg make it into the second. There's too many people with the same name. So we got Joe Thomas, Josh Phillips, Callum Dodd, and I want to say Geraint Powell, is it? Yeah. They're the only 4 players who were in the starting 15 for the first game with Bridgend. So there's a lot of changes in this squad. Losing Morse, obviously we've talked about his impact, and Luca Giannini. I know they've got their captain and Callum Bowden back, but I think this is. I don't want to say a depleted Swansea side, but I don't think it's the strongest 15 that they would have liked to have been able to put out. So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the region has got a sort of duty of care and responsibility here, and I think putting Swansea in a place where they're making this many changes is not helping Swansea's, and that ultimately isn't helping the players either. So I think they need to just get in the habit of being a little bit more consistent if they can, injuries allowing, with selection. And I think Bridgend, they're almost at the other end of this, aren't they? They're getting the opportunity to keep that squad largely the same. And I think Scott's choosing not to change it up too often if he can help it, which is benefiting them ultimately.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on this. So we have both gone for Bridgend wins on this opening day. Oh, we're going to be nice. I think we let the boys make some of their own choices. They have sent in their choices, but I don't know if I'm going to let them. I don't know if we're going to let them have all yet. So next game we get to talk about is the game that didn't really happen. So Aberavon get to travel to Newport. What are your thoughts going into this one?
Yeah, I haven't seen the squads for this one, but I think Newport are a tough enough proposition on any given Saturday, let alone at home. That said, the last 2 games they've started very, very slowly. And if there's a side in this league capable of causing an upset away from home and making a fast start, it's potentially Aberavon. So I think this could be a little bit tighter. It's one of those, isn't it, where because they haven't played a whole game the previous week, I think the players will be itching to get back out there and play. Yeah, I probably won't move from Newport at home, but I don't think it'll be a blowout or anything. I'd say Newport, my gut feel, Newport by 8, maybe.
Newport by 8. It's not bad. I mean, I'm 100% agree with you in terms of Newport not exactly starting the strongest. I mean, Bridgend dived out to a massive lead in the first game, and Swansea were winning till essentially the death in the last full game in round 2. They would have had a 9-day turnaround anyway, so I think these boys would have been, chomping at the bit anyway. But having that half-time cancellation, especially still being a 3-point game, I think everyone's going to be a bit wound up, a bit more rabid. So long as the weather permits, I'm with you. I do think this is going to be a hell of a contest, and Aberavon are going to be right in there. But I'm exactly the same as you. This Newport side is just a little bit too strong at this point in time. So next game, we're back onto you boys. Cardiff getting to host Carmarthen Quins this time around. Now, we touched on the parachute players, Cardiff not getting their full complement, Carmarthen getting an extra one. Are you banking on those players to really, get yourselves going in this competition?
No, not necessarily, but I do think obviously them being used to, arguably that level up, are just used to a slightly higher work rate and, a marginally higher level in physicality. So it does make a difference not having them. That said, the boys that did play last week have got another game under their belts. I think they'll be all the better for having had that game under their belts. I can see them being more competitive this week. I think the tail between these two sides and where the key lies is in the 210s. So I think if hopefully Cardiff back Oshland Darwin-Lewis again at 10, and he's given the opportunity to run there again, because that's the way he's going to learn. And I think at home Cardiff will be a slightly stronger proposition than perhaps they were last week. But ultimately they've got to start well and then keep that going for the full 80 minutes, because they probably didn't come out of the blocks the way they would have liked last week.
I mean, you do have a problem at Cardiff in the fact of you've now got, I know Darwin-Lewis can play in the centres as well, but you've got 3 10s in Harry Wilde, Josh Thomas, and now Darwin-Lewis. You're not going to accommodate all of them. They've all had one start each. So, if this trend keeps on going and, there's another change to the person wearing the number 10, I do agree. I think it can be quite troublesome for yourselves. And again, Ali Thomas, I know they say, one player doesn't, make a team, but one player can have a massive impact and lift everyone else. And when you've got someone like that, I do honestly believe that it galvanizes a whole squad when you've got someone you can turn to, and they will be there. They will be standing tall. They will be telling you what to do. And in such a pivotal position as number 10, you couldn't want, for a better position or a better person, I think, that's currently available in Welsh rugby. So I'm going to assume that you were sticking with Cardiff for this one. You're not ever going to go against Cardiff,
No, I've got Cardiff by 3. I think it'll be a very tight affair, and I'll even go so far as to say I think the last kick of the game might win it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to back the Quins to do the double. I don't think we're going to see a sort of not high scoring affair, but as many tries. I think this is going to be Quins are going to try and control the game. With the obviously the 3-4G pitch down at Cap, they're going to want to keep your boys, as pinned back as much as they can. They will not want that ball to be opened up, especially on your side. So I think there's going to be a lot of tactical kicking in this game, especially by Carmarthen. So that takes us over to Llandovery against Ebbw Vale. Now, this will be Llandovery's first defence of the Challenger Shield. So Drovers got over the line against Pontypool, stuttered against RGC, and they stuttered again against Ebbw Vale last week. I mean, we know there's a great side there. we know there's a side there that's capable of winning every single game for the rest of the season and not bat an eyelid at anyone. But it's just a matter of when will that click. And I said the exact same thing last week. And I said last week was going to be when they win a click. So I've got to keep that going. And I'm going to say this week is when they're going to click. And we're going to see a Llandovery win on the weekend.
Yeah, I think Evervale flattered to deceive when they travelled to Cardiff, and it sort of begs the question: can they travel? You know, are they a little bit like the old the French national team? They just don't travel well. Llandovery are going to be running out on their brand new carpet, I think, this weekend.
Yeah.
And that's a surface that's really, really going to suit their style of play, I think. So, I think whilst we've given Llandovery a bit of stick over the last couple of weeks, they've had to play a lot of games away from home, which never helps. But now that they are back at home, now they're back on the surface that I think suits their style of play, I can see Llandovery getting a win, and I'm going to say by 10. By
10. You know, I do think that when they do click, and I've said this word repeatedly now, click for Llandovery, is someone's going to get a battering. I see them getting over the line. I do see this one being close, but yeah, I'm not going to put a point margin on it. I think it's still going to be, you know, sort of one score game around the 60-minute mark. But yeah, I got to back Llandovery all the way through this. Now that brings us on to our final game of the round, the reverse of the 100-point thriller. RGC getting to travel down to Pontypool. Now, if I am not mistaken, this will be RGC's first away game. Cardiff, Llandovery and Pontypool all at home to start the season. Unlucky against Cardiff, done a job on Llandovery, done a job on Pontypool the first time round. Obviously, it's always a massive talking point when teams go away to RGC. Should we be talking about the same thing with them coming down?
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting challenge now for RGC. Obviously, you've got the logistics of managing that away fixture, but also coming away from the surface, which I think suits their style of play. Pontypool have still got the mud and grass, and I think that'll slow the game up a tiny bit, and that'll suit Pooler. They're a different proposition at home, Pontypool, and they were in this game. They were in this game up at RGC with going into the final 10. There was only 5 points in it, 4 or 5 points in it. So I think they'll be disappointed with the way they finished, and I'm going to go for a Pontypool win at home by 5.
Home by 5, yeah. I'm still a little bit torn on this one. We've seen how well RGC can perform at home, and obviously, first week of the season, it was Pontypool and Llandovery on that Thursday night. And even though they lost, you know, we were saying how good they looked. You know, we weren't talking about the winning side on that occasion. No. Now, they've just squeaked over Bridgend, you know, admittedly away, and we know Bridgend are slowly improving. But, you know, to let a game get away from them, you know, it does send a couple of alarm bells for me. I don't quite think Pontypool may have improved as much as we thought after watching that first game. I am going to back them at home because, you know, every team wants to make their own, you know, ground a fortress, and I can see Pontypool, you know, Pontypool Park being one of them grounds where you don't get an easy win, and you very rarely get a 5-pointer. No, I think the biggest factor for me in this one is RGC travelling down. Obviously, they've had a really nice set of weeks, not having to go anywhere, and you know it's hard enough for people in RGC. They travel to get to Colwyn Bay anyway, so now having to travel 4 hours and then obviously do the return leg, it's going to be a mental battle as well. So I am going to join you. I am going to say Pontypool. That wraps up everything for us now. The boys have put the predictions in, so for Rob, and I'm going to say what they are, and then we'll decide later if we're going to stick to them. So Rob has got Bridgend beating Swansea, Cardiff beating Carmarthen, and Llandovery beating Ebbw Vale again, Rob. They're not going to let him back in the ground at this rate. Newport doing Aberavon, and Pontypool beating RGC. And then we got John's vote, sent from Portugal. I will add that in. It's always a nice little thing to stick in. Bridgend, Cardiff, Llandovery. Gone for Aberavon over Newport. That's a boy that loves his own club. It's what we like to see. Rob, I hope you're listening to this.
Yeah, not like Judas. Yeah, no. It's been noted.
And then for the last game, he's gone for RGC. So he is the only one that's back in RGC to do the double over Pontypool. So I'll let him keep that one.
What's John gone for Cardiff Quins?
Cardiff. I'm the only one going for Quins, but same as last week, I'm going to get all the W's myself.
And then who's he gone? Llandovery, Abervale?
Llandovery. Everyone's gone Llandovery, I believe.
Well, so we've got a couple of 4-0ers there as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Rob's going to be struggling to get back in that club if he's not careful.
I know they asked him to do the Tannoy system as well. It's going to be a long walk back. If Jason Strange ever gets a hold of this, we might get a hold of Rob. But that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. John is expected back next week. Hopefully Rob is as well. Unless Abervale win again, then he'd probably find another reason to avoid us. It was great chatting with you, Rob. Great chatting with you, Joe. Love talking everything SRC. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you for joining me, and we'll do it all again next week. Bye.
Take care now. Ciao.
That was the Super Rugby Cymru podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.